folks back east. How can we help my child with a 2-hour delay in school if it's bad weather? I live in Massachusetts and we often have a delay and it throws her schedule. And they said, thank you. And they said, love the show. We love you too.
Yeah, that's a tough one though.
It is, because we have our visual schedule we get our kids used to, and especially our younger kids on the spectrum, it's like, oh, we're getting you up, getting you ready. No, we have a 2-hour delay.
Right. So to me, what that sounds like is that change per se, or variation per se, from the normal schedule or the expected schedule is the event that's difficult, right? Mm-hmm. So the best way to work on that, no one's going to like this answer, but the best way to work on that is do it a lot. And do it in small amounts at first. So you could start with, and when can you do this? Well, it would have to be on the evenings and it would have to be on the weekends. Whenever you have, obviously not when your child's in school, because that routine is pretty much fixed, except when it's not. But so whenever you have your child at home, you might have what routine is expected, and maybe there's a preferred or a mildly, it could even be like mildly preferred activity that's just about to start that they're interested in doing, but maybe it's not their number one obsession. It's just something they want to do. And then at the very last second, you say, oops, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And you can make up a reasonable reason, like we lost the game, or we're missing a piece, or I lent it to my friend, whatever. Oops, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. We're not going to do A, we're going to do B instead. And make sure at first, when you first work on this, make sure that B is something that the kid would want to do. Okay,
yeah, it's got to be a preferred thing.
Yeah, so start out with a preferred thing. So instead of getting X preferred thing, you're going to get Y preferred thing. And if they have a tantrum, or if they have any other kind of challenging behavior, that doesn't change what's happening. You still have to stick with it and follow through. And so they get that new unexpected thing, that different thing, no matter what. Even if they say, Mommy, I really don't want it, it breaks my heart. And you say, well, I'm really sorry. This is just, things change sometimes. Things happen. This is what we're going to do. And you start with a really small amount of change like that. Okay. And it could even be 5 minutes. So we're going to do this different activity for only 5 minutes, and then we'll go back to the normal routine. It might take, with some kids, it could take a few days for them to even get used to that. But if you practice a little bit each day, I'm telling you, these are like the laws of human conditioning. This is how it works. They will get used to it. It's not going to traumatize them, and they will get used to it, and they will become more flexible. Like we see all the time that folks on the spectrum have a problem with flexibility, and we see all the time that folks on the spectrum have a problem with tolerating change, right? We see that all the time, but it's not a necessity. It's not a must. That's just a lot of folks on the spectrum have that. But it doesn't mean they have to be like that forever. They can get over it if they get a lot of practice in a positive way, starting with really small steps. They can get used to that. And we've seen that a lot of times. It really works.
Okay, now you realize that when you started out and you started talking about this, the parents were all thinking to themselves, wait a minute, I was coming to you because I don't want to deal with the tantrum, and you're telling me to meet the tantrum head on.
Yeah.
And I think what we all have to acknowledge is that we have our own stuff that we're bringing to it, that it's frustrating to us when a delay happens, and we had this whole plan of how we were going to get our child and there wasn't going to be a tantrum, and now we have to dial back that it's hard emotionally for us.
Extremely hard.
And I think here's the other little nugget that, I learned over the years is that if you meet the tantrum head on in that circumstance where it's coming, you have more opportunity to be prepared for it.
Yeah, you mentally prepare yourself.
It doesn't have to be the horrible thing the other time.
That's right. Well, and frankly, since you're doing it on purpose, it's not a horrible thing. It hurts to hear your child cry, and it hurts for your child to have.
And there's a psychological thing about, I'm doing this deliberately. Why am I signing up for this? But you're signing up for it with a purpose, because you're going to give your child the gift of being able to deal with conflict and flexibility.
Exactly. And there's so many other times in our life where we do make our kids do something they don't want to do because it's good for them.
Yeah.
Imagine, just everything, right? Cleaning up your room, doing your homework.
Going to bed before midnight.
Yeah, right. Not eating dessert for every meal. Honestly, kids would make the wrong choice probably 90% of the time if we let them. So that's just part of parenting. And yes, that's the same thing with breaking routines and tantrums. It's probably harder to do that than your average run-of-the-mill thing. But it's going to be good for the kid. It's going to be good for you.